Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Preston Sports Podcast. I know it has been a hot minute since I've been on here. I've been working on a new little space. I've been setting up a little studio in the garage. I'm not 100% done soundproofing it yet, so if it sounds kind of weird, that's why. Hopefully, it doesn't sound too bad. I tested it out a little bit, and I don't think it should be too bad. But yeah, I know it's been a while. Like I said, I've just been working on this. I got tired. My back was hurting from sitting in the closet for 20 to 30 minutes recording, so I figured I would take a little break. I was already stressed out from watching football just by watching football, and so I figured having to talk about it too would just make me a little extra nervous. Yeah, I have a couch now. It's awesome. I can lean back as I talk, and I'm pretty sure y'all can still hear me. It is fantastic. A lot has happened in the sports world, especially today. It is the 14th as I'm recording this. Free agency started at 11 o'clock Texas time. And so much, I say free agency, legal tampering. So none of the deals that happened today are official yet. Everything is, like, the teams have agreed. The agencies of the players, or the players and then their teams that they're quote-unquote signing with, have agreed to contract terms. Nothing will become official until, I believe, 3 p.m. Texas time on Wednesday, so 4 p.m. Eastern time is what the NFL uses. So until 4 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday, nothing's officially official yet. So, expect everything to stay the same, but something could happen. Like Antonio Brown was traded to the Bills for 20 minutes before he ended up going to the Raiders. Yeah, so I'll probably do another podcast talking about all the crazy free agency stuff. The Chargers, like minutes before I started recording, signed a defensive tackle, Sebastian Joseph Day, after opening up the bank for J.C. Jackson. So the Chargers making moves along with trading for Khalil Mack. That was, and then the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson. All of that crazy stuff happened. A lot of money was held out today. The Jaguars, freaking put C4 on the bank vault door and just blew the thing wide open. But we are here to talk about the Cleveland Browns. As most of y'all should know, I am a massive Browns fan. And I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. You know what? No, screw that. I'm mad, disappointed, depressed, all of that with the organization. I'm questioning Andrew Berry's plan for the future. I don't know what Kevin Stefanski wants to do offensively anymore. And I'm very upset with the team. Let me set the stage. So obviously, I make a video that says, thank you, Odell Beckham Jr., and then 2 weeks later, he gets cut. There's my first problem. The offense didn't feature Odell enough. It was too tight end heavy. We use tight ends at wide receiver all the time. Odell, by far the best player, or not the best player, but by far the one of the most talented players on the offense, was barely getting the ball. There's a problem. Jarvis Landry wasn't getting the ball. And I understand Jarvis was hurt. He came out and said how hurt he was, but he was on the field. If he's on the field and he's playing through those injuries, let's maybe get him the ball a little bit. So those are a couple issues I had with the offense. Jarvis Landry, let me pull it up. I believe it's something like 57 catches for 520 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns this past year. Yeah, 52 catches for 570 yards, averaging 11 yards a catch, 2 touchdowns. And he had 6 rushing attempts for 40 yards and then 2 touchdowns on the ground. It's absolutely insane to me that people, while he was hurt and playing with the injuries he played with, are referring to that as a down year. But it was career low receptions, career low yards, I believe career low touchdowns. It was a low year. It was his career low in years, even though he missed more games than ever with injury and all that stuff. Sorry, you'll see my phone vibrate, or you'll hear my phone vibrate a lot because I'm getting a lot of notifications. But yeah, Jarvis Landry obviously didn't have the best year of his career, but it wasn't his fault. It was whenever he was targeted, or whenever he was given the ball, 52 catches, he averaged over 10 yards a catch with it. And he scored touchdowns whenever he was given red zone targets. You think I saw the Ravens touchdown. I went to the Browns-Ravens Week 14 game. Fought through a tackle to get to the end zone, and then again in the Bengals game, the last game of his career, scored the last touchdown of his career as a Browns player, I should say. And I understand that the cap savings was a lot. It was a lot for Jarvis Landry, and he was going to go into the last year of his contract, so we would have had to re-sign him, but it would have been a cap hit of 14 or 15 million, and then if we cut him, it's a dead cap of 1 point something. So we're saving like $14 million here. And I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money. But in the NFL that we're in, where the cap space really, there's ways around the cap. And I didn't know this until recently, but at the end of last year, Jarvis's team was coming to Cleveland to Andrew Berry and saying, hey, we want a long-term deal, we want to be in Cleveland. And they said no. They weren't going to give him a long-term deal, or at least they weren't able to agree on something. And then all the stuff comes out where Jarvis comes out on Twitter and says, hey, I played hurt, but I gave it everything I had. He said, I put the ball in Cleveland's court. I told them I want to stay. But if I leave, I'm confident enough in myself that I can go somewhere else and contribute and try to win a Super Bowl. And I'm not surprised. I would do that too. The organization cut my best friend after not giving me targets, right? Or after not giving me or my best friend targets that they rightfully deserve. And then, so my best friend gets cut, and I'm obviously upset. Because first of all, Odell's a great locker room guy. And if I'm best friends with Odell, and he gets cut, I'm pretty upset about that. And not only that, but I see him go to a new team and then win a Super Bowl. Like, Odell and Jarvis, they were supposed to win a Super Bowl together. That was the whole reason Odell was traded to Cleveland. Odell was traded to Cleveland because, hey, we're going to win a Super Bowl. That was the goal. And obviously, every year, every team wants to win the Super Bowl. That's the goal going into every year. But Cleveland, it was like, hey, we got 2-3 years. Let's win a freaking Super Bowl. And it just didn't happen. So now Jarvis is in a position where Jarvis loved Cleveland. He loved playing for the Browns. He loved the fan base. He loved the team. He loved John Dorsey. He loved Andrew Berry. He wanted to be there. And when he got traded, I don't think it's talked enough about how much Jarvis did, not only on the field. He obviously contributed. He had 900 yards his first year on the Browns. He was like 24 yards short of 1,000 yards. And then he had almost a 1,200 yard season the next year. And then down year with 800, but he missed the game, and it just wasn't the offense. He picked it up later in the season. And then obviously the 570 yards this year. Those statistical, like all the touchdowns he scored, I think it was like 15 receiving touchdowns, and then within seasons, and if you go postseason and rushing touchdowns, it's like 20-ish touchdowns. Those are all great. But what Jarvis did off the field, what he did to change the culture, that is, I would argue, more important. What he did, not just catching the ball and running with the ball and scoring touchdowns, but what he did on the sideline and in the meeting room and on the practice field, I view that as almost more important than what he did on the field. Because, like, people forget how bad of a place Cleveland was just 5 or 6 years ago. To play for to say I wanted to play for the Cleveland Browns, when you signed to go to the Cleveland Browns, you were signing up to lose games. You were basically saying, I'm fine getting overpaid, but I know my team's not going to be well. You were early in your career and you're like, I'll sign a 2-year deal, get $10 million a year, and then go to a contender. Or you were an old Cleveland Browns player and you wanted to retire there, so you signed a 10-year or a 1-day deal. So what Jarvis did, he came in and first of all, he did not complain once about being a Cleveland Brown. There were never reports of Jarvis, telling other teams to come get me. There were never reports of Jarvis saying like, hey, I don't want to be here. Jarvis was a true class act, and he was nothing but just a man about his situation. He probably loved it in Miami. He got to Cleveland and he said, I loved it in Miami, but I got a new mission. And that's to win as many games as a Cleveland Brown as I can. And I don't think like we don't win the playoffs. We don't win that Steelers game. I personally don't think, if not for Jarvis Landry. Like almost every bit of Cleveland Browns' success over the past 4 years, I will attribute to Jarvis Landry. And one thing I don't understand is if the cutting of Jarvis Landry was purely for cap reasons, that doesn't make sense to me at all. Let's talk about a couple of ways we could have saved the cap. Case Keenum. This organization has no faith in Case Keenum. Baker Mayfield played awful this year, right? If we had a better backup, don't you think we would have benched Baker? Baker had a torn labrum, and I don't think, like, I understand these are professional athletes. They're quote bigger than man. They're tough. They play through injuries. A torn labrum, whenever you're a Baker Mayfield type quarterback and you're a torque thrower, you're a full body thrower. That is a heck of a lot to play through. When every throw you're feeling pain, every time you get hit, your shoulder could pop out again. And the way his humerus was broken, every time his shoulder popped out, it was bone grinding on bone. Do you know how painful it is to have bone grinding on bone consistently? He had to wear a harness which restricted his throwing motion, and that probably messed up. So people are talking about him being inaccurate this year. That's probably why, because he had something that changed the way he threw the ball. And because of his upper mechanics getting thrown out of whack, his feet were thrown out of whack, which caused everything. I'm not trying to argue and say Baker had a good year, but I'm just trying to say it's not like he just sucked. It's not like he played bad football because he's not good at football. There was a lot contributing to him not being good. Not to mention the wide receivers were not playing. Like Jarvis was given it, but Jarvis was hurt. He was given all he got, but Jarvis was hurt. And it's not like we had any star. It's not like we had a star receiver on the roster earlier in the year that we cut because we couldn't give it enough targets to. That would be way too convenient for us. But anyway, so Case Keenum, we could have cut him, save $6 million. So, I mean, why would you? Anyways, why would you cut a starting receiver and not cut a backup quarterback first? Lost on me. How about? Okay, so we franchise tagged David Njoku. And I am kind of upset we couldn't reach a long-term agreement with David Njoku. I thought David Njoku was phenomenal this year. I think he was by far our best tight end. I think he's our highest ceiling tight end. So we franchise tag him to around $11 million. Then there's Austin Hooper. You want to talk about having a down year, Jarvis having a down year? Austin Hooper, whenever he was signed in the 2020 offseason, was expected, you were thinking, oh my goodness, Baker Mayfield loves his tight ends. Kevin Stefanski loves his tight ends. Austin Hooper, really good tight end. He's going to do well in this Cleveland Browns offense. Let's look at what Austin Hooper did. We got 46 catches for 435 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then 38 catches for 345 yards and 3 touchdowns. Those are not the best stats. The only times he has stats lower than those is when he was a rookie and he had 19 catches for 271 yards. It's a career low in touchdowns for him this year, his second career low in catches, and his second career low in yards. His yards per catch was only 9.1, which you don't really love. So Austin Hooper, we could have cut him and saved, I think, around $6 or $7 million as well. Why would we not? So and they're saying, no, we're keeping Austin Hooper. Why would you? I understand you love your tight ends, but he's your backup who's underperformed for the past 2 years. He underperformed for 2 years, and he doesn't contribute anything that Jarvis contributes. Why would you keep Austin Hooper and then franchise tag David Njoku? I think we're paying our 2 tight ends like $22 million this year. That's absolutely insane. I understand Kevin Stefanski's offense loves tight ends, but you don't need to be paying tight ends that much. Austin Hooper, the idea of Austin Hooper was a really good idea, but at this point you need to cut your losses and just cut him because it's not working. And I don't understand why you would keep Austin Hooper to be a second string tight end for that much money, and then you're going to cut Jarvis Landry. And the thing, J.C. Treader is someone you could have cut, say $8 million. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of that because he's a really good center. You could trade him, or I don't know. JC, I'm not as sold on JC, but if you really wanted to, Nick Harris played really well this year when he had to step in. I believe in the Green Bay game he played really well. And he's year 3. That's normally when you want to start getting these offensive linemen in the starting lineup a little bit. So I think JC could be a cut or a trade candidate for later this season. But my biggest thing, if you were so worried about paying a wide receiver a lot of money, why in the world would you trade for Amari Cooper? Now listen, I live in Dallas. My whole family is, or my mom, my sister, they're Cowboys fans. I get it. There's a lot of Cowboys fans around me. I understand. I think Amari Cooper is a great wide receiver, really good route runner. Why would you trade for a $20 million wide receiver who does not show up in big games? What did Amari Cooper do in the Cowboys playoff game? What did Amari Cooper do down the stretch? What has Amari Cooper ever done in a massive game? What has Amari Cooper ever done in a game that isn't against the Eagles? What has Amari Cooper done besides play well in the season? Because it's ridiculous. Why would you trade for a wide receiver worth $20 million that doesn't show up in big games when you have a wide receiver who you're paying maybe $15, $16 million and shows up in every big game? Every big game Jarvis Landry showed up in. You think of some of the biggest games in Cleveland Browns history. 2020 Week 18 against the Steelers, win and you're in. Jarvis Landry gets an end around and fights for a rushing touchdown. We won that game by 2 points. You go to the Browns playoff game against the Steelers. I believe Jarvis Landry had 5 catches for 70-some yards and a touchdown. He took a slant all the way to the end zone. You go to Kansas City, the Browns are down, I think it's like 21-3 or something like that. And Jarvis Landry just runs an out route and makes an amazing catch for a touchdown. We ended up losing that game by 1 score. But we had a chance because of Jarvis Landry. Week 1 against the Kansas City Chiefs, Jarvis Landry had another amazing performance. A rushing touchdown where he fought like 3 or 4 tacklers, bounced and spun off of people, and fought his way to the end zone. Every single time Jarvis Landry has been given a chance to put the Browns in a good position to win, he's done it. The one time is, you can say, the Steelers game on Halloween this year whenever he fumbled. The one time they didn't. And that's unfortunate, but, the Browns they played awful. They shouldn't have won that game anyway. But Jarvis Landry shows up in every single big moment you give him. And then there's someone like Amari Cooper who, don't get me wrong, is a very talented receiver. But why would you trade, give up assets to pay a receiver $20 million who's not going to be what Jarvis was? And even if you traded for Amari Cooper, why didn't you keep Jarvis? Because going with the draft mindset, now wide receiver is still a need. If you had Amari Cooper, Jarvis Landry, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, you would be fine. But now you're looking at Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Anthony Schwartz, so you still need to draft wide receiver. If you were to keep Jarvis Landry, you could draft interior defensive line or edge at 13. Now you're looking at a situation where you might have to draft wide receiver at 13. If Garrett Wilson is there, you should probably take Garrett Wilson. Or even if Jameson Williams is there, you might want to take Jameson Williams for the upside. But the cutting of Jarvis Landry is just one of the most. And I've seen Browns people who support the move because it saves cap space. What are we going to use that cap space for? What are we going to use it for? Because everyone's problem is that, Baker Mayfield's our quarterback. Baker Mayfield's our quarterback. Baker Mayfield needs a good situation around him. Okay, maybe he does need a good situation around him. Why are we taking players away from that? Because the Baker Mayfield, whether you like it or not, is your starting quarterback for 2022. In September, Baker Mayfield's going to line up under center. And so you can have Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz, because it looks like, last I checked, they're out of the Allen Robinson sweepstakes. And most of the bigger free agent wide receivers have been taken. Yeah, I'm actually reading something right now. Allen Robinson wants too steep of a cap number, so the Browns are going to pick him up. So you're not going to get Allen Robinson. You're probably not going to get any crazy wide receiver unless you take one in the draft, which I'm honestly not opposed to. But what you're looking at if you're the Browns is you probably want to draft someone at 13, whether that's Jordan Davis or Garrett Wilson, and then trade back up in the first round. Maybe later in the first round, maybe you're looking at taking Perrion Winfrey or Chris Olave. But it's days like these that make me not want to be a Browns fan. It's just, I understand you want to save cap space, but in today's NFL, where you can do so much to save cap space, I don't understand why you would just cut someone who contributes so much to your organization on the and off the field, rather than keep people who don't contribute on the field, and I would say don't contribute that much off the field. And I'm probably getting there's probably a lot of personal bias in this, and I'm not denying that, but I don't see how that $14 million helps you this year. Even if you're not going to re-sign Jarvis. I understand that. Because if you're not re-signing him, you're looking at a 30-year-old wide receiver. I can understand not wanting to re-sign him. But he's one of the few people who wanted to come to Cleveland. And he took that challenge upon himself. And he made it a personal thing for him that he was going to help this franchise. And the fact that this franchise has not helped him, it left a sour taste in my mouth. That being said, I'm still a Browns fan. It just hurts a little bit. But that's the league. It's a business above all else. If there's anything that your team has done that has made you very depressed, let me know, because I want to suffer with you guys. Like I said, I'll be doing some more podcasts this offseason talking about other crazy moves, because a bunch of crazy crap has happened within the past week. Don't forget, like I said, we're in the legal tampering period right now. When we get to Wednesday at 3 o'clock Texas time, we're going to be entering true free agency. So that's when all the trades that have happened, all the deals that have happened will become officially official. Thank y'all so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I promise I'll be trying my best to post more often. I'm kind of liking the studio, not soundproofed all the way. So we'll see whatever happens with that. Thank y'all again, and have a nice rest of your night.